First, let's just deal with the news of the day. Do you support the government's proposal for a national service?
They don't support it either. It's a joke, isn't it? I mean, look, what you do, you get a focus group of half a dozen reform voters in a room, and the chairman says, now, what about national service? Oh, I think it's a very good idea. The rest say, yeah, actually, not a bad idea. Oh, policy. So, you know, I mean, look, when you're a weak leader, and Sunak is not a leader in any way at all, you're a follower. So you follow what the focus groups say, and you say, by doing this, I can attack the reform vote. That's what it's all about. And look, it's totally impractical. The army has shrunk from 100,000 to 75,000 in 14 years of conservatism. And most interestingly, we have a growing number of young people in this country who do not subscribe to British values, in fact, loathe much of what we stand for. So what do you do?
Who are we talking about there?
Oh, I think we see them on the streets of London every Saturday.
What do they look like? Oh, we're talking about...
What do they look like?
Are we talking about Muslims here?
We are. And I'm afraid I found some of the recent surveys saying that 46% of British Muslims support Hamas, support a terrorist organisation that is prescribed in this country. So we've been, you know, and what's interesting is that this Prime Minister is building up far more of that population than anybody before in history.
Nigel Farage, the outspoken leader of Reform UK, clashed with a news journalist in a heated debate over the impact of mass immigration on British society. The exchange quickly turned tense, with Nigel raising concerns about national identity and security. At the heart of the discussion was a sensitive question: are Muslims in the UK against British values? Watch closely as the debate unfolds and both sides put forward their arguments.
Well, this is very interesting, and we don't have that survey in front of us, but let's just unpick what you've just said. Are you sure you want to make the blanket accusation that you've just made that Muslims are somehow less patriotic than other British people, because those people on those demonstrations are British?
Did you watch the recent elections that took place up and down the country?
We don't know that, and we don't know they support Hamas. Would you like to revisit what you said at all?
Let's be clear. There is a growing population of people in this country, a lot of them very young, who have recently been voting for and electing candidates, right, up and down the country, in inner cities, who stand for a set of values that are completely, not only don't subscribe to our values, but in many cases are totally against our values. And the marches, there are some on those marches. Equally, there are lots of upper middle class girls called Jocasta on those marches as well, and I understand that. But we have to face the fact, and at some point, by 2029, the Labour Party will have to face the fact that they started a policy of irresponsible, open-door immigration, but nobody in history has allowed more people in who are potentially going to fight against British values than Mr. Sunak. And if you look at those figures last week, if you look at the sheer numbers that were coming in last week, you really have to ask yourself some questions.
Well, is this the thrust of the reform campaign, that actually immigration means that our values are threatened, and particularly we are unhappy about Muslims? Because that is a pretty incendiary proposition.
We have never before seen anything like this. You think about West Indian immigration into Britain, the post-World War II.
I think of very little else.
West Indian immigration into Britain, post-World War II. You know, there were a lot of shared things there. Shared history, shared culture, shared religion in many cases. Most families that came could say one of their family had served with British forces in World War I, World War II, love of cricket. You know, the list goes on, but there were commonalities. And, you know, as you know with your previous job, the key to immigration is integration. If you get integration, it works. What we've done is, and this works on several levels. We've done...
I'm going to stop you there, and I'm going to say two things.
Well, here's the difference.
No, I'm going to tell you something about the difference. First of all, you're right. I come from that stock. But let us remember that my ancestors, for the best part of 700 or 800 years, were Muslims until they were forcibly converted to Christians by slave owners. So when you talk about Muslims as hostile to British values, I've got to say, I don't really. Let me finish what I'm going to say. I don't really see how you arrive at that conclusion. And secondly, trying to say to me, you know, actually you guys are not really like these other guys. I mean, you and I have known each other a long time. Can you imagine how offensive that is to a British Muslim? Let me ask you to put yourself in the shoes of a British Muslim, and can you imagine how offensive that feels?
How many people from your community fail to speak English?
How many people?
From the West Indian community don't speak English.
We all speak English, but actually so do most Indian Muslims, so do pretty much all Pakistani Muslims in this country.
I can take you to streets in Oldham where virtually no one speaks English.
I've been there too, but honestly, come on.
The point I'm making is this.
Serious.
I am not here to attack the religion of Islam, but I am here.
Well, you've just been doing it for 3 minutes.
No, I haven't. I'm telling you the alarming figures that have been coming out of these recent polls, particularly in the wake of what has happened on October the 7th and in Gaza, and we have a real problem here. We want, I mean, firstly, numbers on immigration need to be sensible, otherwise everyone's quality of life gets diminished. Diminished in every way. Diminished because you can't get a GP appointment. Diminished because you can't travel anywhere without traffic jams. Diminished because getting on a housing ladder is impossible, because we now need to build one new dwelling every 2 minutes.
I want to get on to
and that's apart from...
I want to get on to politics, but I just want to be absolutely clear, and I want to give you the opportunity to be clear, because everything you've just said suggests that the Reform platform for this election is every problem you face is down to immigrants, and in particular to Muslims. Is that really what you're saying?
No, actually, most people aren't yet affected by this, because the areas with anti-British values tend to be geographically, at the moment, very tightly concentrated. But they do pose a problem.
But you're not resiling from blaming that community.
I'm blaming elements of that community. Not blaming them, I'm stating a fact.
Nigel Farage argues that mass immigration poses a serious threat to British values. He insists the government must take urgent action to reduce the number of people coming into the country. According to him, there's a growing section of the population in the UK that does not share or support British values. And that is a problem. The journalist, however, strongly disagrees with his view. Let's see how Nigel responds and builds on his point.
All I'm doing is stating a fact. No one else dares tell the truth about this. On the broader question, the biggest single problem this country faces is the population explosion, and it will not be debated in this election. Why? Because Labour started it and the Tories accelerated it, and that has led to problems on a scale that are unimaginable.
Okay, I want to debate that, and let me start it talking to you about this way. Your flagship policy is zero immigration, net zero immigration, right? I talked to James Cleverly earlier on about the fact that net migration numbers are falling a bit.
No.
Well, I know. Let me finish my. It's a fact.
No, I'm really sorry. Let's get this right.
They're falling a bit. They're falling by 10%.
They are not falling, and here's why. Last year's legal migration figures were 606,000 until they were revised later.
I know, they've gone up.
745.
You haven't let me finish my question. You haven't let me finish my question.
Well, it was the wrong premise.
No, I want to put some facts to you.
I just did to you.
Inward migration last year, end of 22, was 1.2 million.
Yeah.
Actually,
staggering.
It hasn't fallen in 2023, and in that sense, you're correct.
Oh, thank you.
But what's interesting is who the migrants are. Now, why don't you have a look at this?
Yep.
Indians up 47%, Nigerians up 907%. Now, the reason that is happened is look at the bottom figure. EU figures down 193%.
How does 75,000 equate to 250,000, 141,000? So a tiny fraction.
Let me finish. Well, actually, if you go back further, the EU point is European Union migrants left post-Brexit.
A few, a handful.
No, a lot more, actually. The point I really want to make is this. You are complaining about the people who you think don't share British values. You're identifying particular communities. And the point I want to make to you is that by the middle of the century, the white British proportion of population will be down below 2/3. That's the thing that I think you're worried about.
I didn't.
But this is.
I didn't say that.
Okay. The people who are.
Don't put words in my mouth.
The thing that you're worried about is your responsibility. You're the father of the policy that produced this.
No,
that made
that
the EU migrants leave
Trevor,
and increased the number of non-EU migrants.
I've ever heard. Big load of cobblers I've ever heard in my life. What we did by leaving the European Union was to change a policy, which meant we discriminated against the rest of the world, often against talent, interestingly, in favour of an open door with the European Union. What Brexit did was give us back control of our own, by the way, we're not even discussing Dover, get us back control of our legal migration policy. What Boris Johnson chose to do was to set the bars and the levels at the lowest possible level. He also allowed, for example, students to bring dependents. Whether you have to bring your mum with you to go to a British university is beyond me.
But you might have to bring your wife and children if you're a postgraduate.
Well, I'm sorry, we haven't got room. We've really got to start growing up on this. We haven't got room. We cannot go on. And it's unfair to put this population explosion, which you're very vividly showing on the screen, on the British people.
Because it's a fact.
It's a fact. Yeah, what's a fact?
It's a fact.
What is a fact?
It is the consequence of Brexit.
No, it's a consequence of government policy. You've got to
it only happened after Brexit.
Because Johnson, despite the fact people like me publicly warned, if you set the salary thresholds at this level, there was another massive opening up in 2021. This is Conservative policy. And of course, there's no opposition to it because Labour dare not even debate the issue. This has been done by, if you want mass immigration, vote Conservative. If you want mass immigration, vote Labour. If you want a proper debate about why this is the most impactful policy on everyone's life in this country, then we're the people to talk to in reform.
Do you agree with Nigel Farage's claim that a growing number of people in the UK no longer support traditional British values? How do you think the UK should balance immigration with the need to preserve its cultural identity, especially given the presence of a large Muslim community? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the debate. If you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next video where we'll continue exploring some of today's most pressing issues.